Welcome back to the Culture Minute. This is Mike with Soundstage EDU. You have to forgive me for trying to kind of fold into this new habit here. It's going to take me a minute to get adjusted. And I also decided to start this right in the middle of when I'm more than busy. If you've been following along on our socials, you know that we are involved with a tech week with a local youth theater academy for their summer camp. And we're just trying to make sure that we're giving them the attention that we need to be giving them. But we don't want to stop our work here. And I had a conversation with some of the high school helpers that we had at the end of the rehearsal today, and it just kind of sparked the theme for this Culture Minute. Maybe a little longer than our typical, we're not going to say we have anything typical. We just started this. But like the rest stops, we had a typical 6 to 7 minute type of situation. And that's what I'm kind of trying to go for with these as well. I don't want to overwhelm you with words and overwhelm you with information or overwhelm you with things that you need to do. But I do want to give you the whole story here. I want to give you practical things to work with. And I feel like this particular situation may be a little more in depth than I realized, because it was a pretty long conversation that I had with the helpers today. But it's something that comes up every once in a while for me, and it's something I really feel like I've been wrestling with lately. And it's something that I'm not just seeing in organizations or booster clubs or leadership programs or sports groups or any of that. I'm seeing this particularly in programs. Your marching bands, your ensembles, your choirs, your dance groups, your cheer groups, even your theater groups. I'm seeing it in communities. I'm seeing it at the civic level. I'm seeing it at higher order levels of community management. And honestly, it's even something that I'm seeing manifest itself in me. And the question is that I'm wrestling with is, where exactly is the line between excellence and mediocrity? Because if we're honest, that's not really ever an easy question to answer for anybody in any of these situations. I personally have spent most of my life around high-performing environments, competitive marching bands, national championship level marching bands, world championship level drum corps, performance organizations, high-tier performance professional theaters, production teams that are functioning on a national level. These are all places where details mattered, where standards mattered, where people care deeply about doing things well, not only for themselves, but also for the audience and for their clients. And one thing that I've noticed over the years is that excellence rarely disappears all at once. It erodes slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. Seriously, nobody wakes up one morning and says, you know what? Let's be mediocre. That's not how it happens. There may be some of that, but it does not really how everybody that gets into any kind of performing art or any kind of performance-based situation in life, they honestly want to be the best that they can. They honestly want to put their best foot forward. They honestly want to do the best work that they can do. But listen, the way mediocrity sneaks into what we're doing is that a detail gets ignored. A shortcut gets accepted. An expectation that you once held gets lowered. Maybe you missed a deadline. Maybe rehearsal gets wasted on foolishness. Maybe a process gets skipped, And everyone says, and I know you've all heard this, I've heard it. I heard it today. Someone says, it's fine. It's fine. And listen, maybe it is. Maybe it really is fine. Because here's the part of this conversation that often gets missed. And I even heard this come up in a corporate training that I was in, and I believe I've even made an episode about this some time back. But not everything requires perfection. And some of you that know me personally are probably surprised to even hear me say those words. But not everything deserves maximum effort. You really don't need to give championship level attention to everything that you do, because it's going to burn you out. And sometimes good enough really is good enough. Because sometimes done is better than perfect. Because at least you got it done. Because sometimes the pursuit of perfection becomes unhealthy, because perfectionism becomes fear. Sometimes it becomes ego. And the dangerous one, sometimes it becomes an excuse to never finish anything. And that's a very real outcome. But there's another danger that doesn't get talked about enough here either, and that's the danger of normalizing mediocrity. The danger of lowering standards so often that nobody remembers where the standards used to even be. The danger of accepting good enough so frequently that it literally becomes the culture that you're living in. Because you've heard me say it throughout the Culture Lab. Those of you that are there, you've heard me say this many times. Culture is what you repeatedly accept. And I'm going to say that again because it's that important. But culture is what you repeatedly accept. Because if excellence is consistently accepted, excellence becomes normal. It's not because they're better. It's not because they're more talented. It's because they accepted and normalized excellence. And it became the standard operating mode. On the contrary, if mediocrity is consistently tolerated, mediocrity becomes the norm. And neither one of those situations happens overnight. They happen through repetition. They happen through practicing mediocrity or practicing excellence. They come through they come from what you're reinforcing. And this isn't just about performance. It isn't. I see it in leadership organizations all the time. I've seen it in my own. Meetings start late. Nobody follows through. Communication is inconsistent. Important work gets delayed. People stop preparing. And eventually, everyone just adapts to the lower standard. And it's not because they're lazy, and it's not because they're, just not doing their job well, but because humans adapt to the environment around them. It's human nature. Therefore, the standard becomes whatever the culture rewards. And that's where this gets a little bit uncomfortable, because excellence is contagious, right? We know that. But so is mediocrity. Both spread, both teach, both create expectations. The student who watches everyone else cut corners learns that shortcuts are acceptable. The volunteer who watches leadership miss deadlines learns over time that deadlines just don't really matter. And the board member who watches meetings drift off course, they learn that preparation just really isn't that important, because whoever's chairing this meeting wasn't prepared because they let it drift. The culture teaches them. Whether you intended for it to or not, it teaches them. And that's why I think that the real question isn't, should we pursue perfection? Because I don't think that's the right question. The better question is, what deserves excellence? Because not everything does. But some things absolutely do. Integrity deserves excellence. Preparation deserves excellence. Follow-through deserves excellence. Respect, serving students, keeping promises, those all deserve excellence. And when we stop pursuing excellence in those areas, culture starts drifting. Maybe not immediately, not visibly, but eventually it does. Because excellence isn't really about perfection. It's not. And if you've heard me talk about perfection, you understand that. I hope you understand my position on it, that perfection is a myth. My students used to hear this from me all the time. Hey, Mr. D. John, how did we do? You did great. But where can we improve? Because there was always room for improvement. Always. You can always do better than you did before. Always. Perfectionism myth. But intentionality? That's the secret sauce. Intentionality is about deciding what matters and refusing to lower the standard there. So here's your Culture Minute challenge for today. We've gone over 10 and a half minutes. Told you this would run a little bit longer. But your challenge for today, I want you to think about your organization. Think about your team, think about your board, maybe even think about yourself. Where have you accepted something repeatedly that you know isn't actually the standard that you want? And more importantly, what would happen if you raise that standard by just 1%? Not perfection, not overnight transformation, just 1%. Just be a little bit better than you were before. Improvements. That's what I used to teach my students. Small improvements. Because culture changes the same way that a culture erodes. One decision at a time. One microscopic drift at a time. So until next time, remember that people support what they help create.